what they won't tell you when you get married, because obviously you get married and the whole intention is to be together forever.
Yeah.
But when you separate, actually, the family bond and the family ties, you don't divorce the family. You don't divorce your mother-in-law.
Yeah.
You don't divorce. It's family. They are your family, and that was a lot of comfort for me, because I had a very good relationship with my mother-in-law at the time, and she still became quite a guiding force even after we were divorced.
Hi guys, welcome to today's episode of Mental Health and Motherhood with Boledi. Welcome. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you are going to enjoy this episode. Now, I am with a woman whose aura is just, it brings you in. It's just so positive, so amazing. But I'm going to let you get to know her for yourself. Hi, Luyanda.
Hi, Boledi. How are you? Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'm so excited about this because I was like, I need to have her.
I know, and we struggled so much to get our schedules to align.
Sure. But I believe in timing. I believe in it happening when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, true.
So I feel like today is the perfect day for it.
Thank you.
Sure. So take me through just briefly who you are, how you grew up, and all the way up to this point.
Oh my gosh, that's going to take 5 hours. Okay, but my name is Luyanda.
Yes.
I'm born and raised in Joburg.
Yes.
I'm 32 years old. I'm a mother of 2. I studied publishing and got into, obviously the media space, and writing was always my passion. I love telling stories, and my career started off in publishing.
Wow. So
it kind of then morphed into editing a little bit, and then kind of just branched off into a freelance career of just editing and writing, and that was just my little business on the side. But what I really discovered is my true passion, which was just to empower women. And how I found myself doing that was through fitness.
Sure.
And when I started my company, Zero Gravity, it was more of like a sporting goods company, but it kind of morphed into this whole big wave of just a community of people who really took my journey to heart and followed me, on social media, physically, and also just doing live events and whatever. So now I juggle between those two things and being a mom.
Sure.
So that's kind of in a nutshell who I am. I'm not going to obviously get into the details but I'm just, obviously somebody who loves to try new things. So I never limit myself to one thing. That's why sometimes when people ask me what do you do? I get so nervous because I'm like, oh girl, I do so many things.
Now I feel like I have to box myself.
I know.
I
and
get you.
There's always that fear of being a jack of all trades and master of none, that old saying. I say it's old because nowadays you can do everything.
Absolutely.
So Luyanda is just somebody that tries to do new things. I let my spirit guide me.
Sure.
Tomorrow I might want to do something else, and there's a lot of different things that I'm good at and passionate about. So whatever I try to do, I always just try to guide myself into a natural path which can lead into a career move that can be beneficial for myself, but mostly build a community of empowering women overall.
Sure. That is so powerful.
Thank you.
First of all, just the fact that you said the saying that being a jack of all trades but not mastering any. I think you're right, because it's that doesn't work now anymore. Women can actually have proven to do so many things,
do everything,
and be able to excel in all of them.
Definitely.
So I love that, and I think that is a notion that we need to get rid of with time, because really I feel like it forced people to try and box themselves.
I know.
And hence I actually have an issue with niching down in terms of content creation, but that is a whole topic on its own. That is such a beautiful story of your becoming, and I wouldn't have told that you are in that career if you didn't say you are doing that, because I thought that you actually do fitness full time.
Yeah. Well, so the spaces are obviously different, and Well, I try to be very intentional. So obviously
Okay.
the social media, I guide with obviously the fitness thing, because
Okay.
that's the best vehicle for my work to kind of translate to an audience.
Okay.
But with editing and writing and publishing, your work speaks for itself in that you don't need to, be on social media to drive
Absolutely.
that part of your work. So I have a lot of things that I do, but I have different vehicles where I drive those
Love
things.
that.
So I
Love
think
that.
publishing and the writing and all that has its own platform where I'm
Platforms.
driving it. So if you were to maybe focus more on Luyanda the publisher, you would find my work and you kind of see like, oh my gosh, like if you're reading a lot of magazines and newspapers or digital content, you'll see my name in a byline and you'll be like, oh, that's quite weird, but and I
Yeah.
try to archive my work so you'll always know where to find Luyanda the fitness person, Luyanda the publisher, Luyanda the whatever it is. I'm just quite intentional to just not muddle everything up, because people want to know where they can find you specifically for that thing that you're pushing, So if everything is just in one hot pot, it can also just get a little bit confusing. So I think that's why there's a clear-cut line and
Yes.
definition between what I do. I mean, for example, as a single mom,
Yeah.
and a businesswoman and entrepreneur and everything like that, I try to be intentional so as to people always ask me, are you dating, or why don't we ever see your relationship and whatever?
Yes.
And that's obviously something that is quite intentional as well. I'm quite a private person, but you won't always see me like in a
Yes.
relationship on my public space, because it's more so me wanting to drive specific things on social media. So I think it's kind of like,
And I think you do it so well, because and it makes sense that you're saying understanding which platform works for which area of your life, and you're doing that so well.
thank you.
So you speak about entrepreneurship, you speak about motherhood, being a single mom. We're going to get into all
Okay.
of that. I just want to know from you, when was the time in your life when you felt like, I am actually a woman? And at that point, what did womanhood mean to you?
Obviously, I went to a girls' school. My entire, I think, education was in a girls' school environment.
Yeah.
So when you're in a girls' school, you're a girl, you're a
Yeah.
young woman, and it's a different ball game, because at the same time as trying to find who you are, you also in quite a rigid schooling space. So there's rules, there's so people would think that you just already know who you are when you're in high school. But for me, I think my becoming was when I became a mom.
Yeah.
When
Oh,
I became a
really?
mom, I just realized that, like, okay, there's a superpower here,
Okay.
and that is being able to bring a child into the world.
Sure.
But not only bringing a child into the world, but instinctively knowing what your child wants. It's like crazy,
Right?
I sometimes watch mothers now, when a baby cries that's not my own baby.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, what does she want?
Sure.
And the mom will be like, oh no, she's probably sleepy or whatever. And that's exactly like spot on what the baby is, what the baby needs or is going through.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, for me, defined me as a mom, just to have that innate, instinctive feeling of what your child wants, another human being wants, without them even communicating with you. That's what I
Absolutely.
think defined me as a woman,
Sure.
And there's obviously a lot of other things, but being a mother and knowing what my children need and want without them even communicating it to me, I think that was powerful for me, and just discovering my strength as a woman.
Sure.
Yeah.
That is and I agree. You speak about the fact that people think that in high school you already know,
Yeah.
yourself. You've got yourself figured out, and if anything, it usually happens just right in the middle of your 20s and
Oh yeah, I mean, it's very confusing.
right.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh my God. Tell me about just what you thought motherhood was, and then you diving into it. How did you find it?
I thought motherhood was having everything together.
Yeah.
And knowing that, like, whenever your children see you, you have money to do everything they ask you to do. You're there when the
Sure.
school needs you to be there. You're there to take them to school trips. And, like, just being everywhere at every place and having all the resources and having an infinite supply of energy.
Yeah.
And crashing and burning made me realize that it's not that.
Yeah.
You know, what motherhood is to me is honesty and being open and honest with my kids. And that's what I've tried to. It's hard because, you know, it's not always easy to tell your kids, like, I don't have the money to do this.
Absolutely.
Or I'm tired, or I'm working, or I'm going to be busy at this time, and you know, you're going to have to make it work some other way. Or if we're doing homework and you get impatient, that's normal. And then actually also apologizing, being accountable to your kids. So being human is really what the crux is about being a mom for me. It's not about having everything together and being perfect at all times. Because I think perfection it's something you'll chase forever. You'll never really reach the destination of perfection. But if you're like honesty and authenticity, at least you can see where the edge of your honesty lies and the beginning of your truth lies. And that's somewhere you can work towards, you know. If you're not comfortable with being 100% honest at that moment, you know that, okay, let me start by, you know, opening up like this and like that. It's a journey. So that makes more sense to me, you know, to be honest over perfect.
I love that. I love that. And you know what? I think it works out so much better when you choose to be honest over just being this perfect parent who just makes sure that her kids has everything. Because the truth is, and I share the same sentiments, the truth is, because we've seen our mothers do it, you're just like, oh my gosh, such a superwoman. And then you get in there and you're like, what?
Flames.
Every single day.
Exactly.
And you know, there's a misconception that conscious and gentle parenting is actually the easy way out. Because you're constantly, you know, trying to tiptoe around your kids. Which is not, because it actually takes a lot from you. It requires you to heal. Absolutely. It requires you to be honest with yourself. It requires you to be like, I was wrong. And then going to your child and saying, you know what, I was wrong.
I know.
It's a lot.
The healing is also, that's also so interesting to say, because I think everything starts with healing. Even just the decision to leave a marriage that's not working, you have to heal through that, because, you know, that's an honest moment that you have with yourself where you're like, this is not working. And I have to heal that so that I can move forward, you know. So the journey starts with healing always.
Now that you've gone into that, I was coming to that, deciding to leave a marriage that you feel doesn't work for you. I mean, I've said off air that there's this aura about you. You just look like you are doing okay. You know, sometimes we move on, but a huge part of you is left behind. And then you are moving, but you're not healing, you're not necessarily working anything out, and you can really end up toxic, even within the relationship. So at what point do you feel like, my goodness, I feel like this is not working out? Because that's such a hard pill to swallow. At what point did that happen for you?
So I got married very young.
Okay.
I got married at 19, which is very young. And, you know, obviously being the go-getter that I am, I thought I had life all figured out. I've always felt like I have life all figured out, because I'm just like, I can do this. Come on, marriage. Like, duh, you marry your best friend, you just kick it for the rest of your life. How hard can it be? Not realizing that, like, obviously being the person that I am, the evolution was constant. I was constantly changing and changing and changing and changing. By the time I was like 24, 25, 26, I was a completely different person than the person that I was when we got married, you know. And, you know, it's obviously, it's like a buffet. I always say, like, when a marriage comes to an end, it's like a buffet. You take cheese if you eat cheese, you take beef if you eat beef, and the other person has to take, like, no one goes to a buffet and expects not to eat, you know?
Absolutely.
So with me, I had to own that, like, no, I've changed, I've become a different person. Maybe the things that I accepted at 19 are just not acceptable to me now, you know? And communicating that to him in a way that was lovingly disconnecting was also just important to me because we had 2 kids at the time.
Yes.
And I didn't want to just like be like, I'm out, bye, do you, it had to be a positive disconnect.
Sure.
So when we split, I had to just be honest that like, I just don't think the person that I am now is the person you married. And that's also not fair to you. You married somebody, you had an idea of who you were marrying.
Absolutely.
But this is the gag about marriage, is that it's when you sign up to get married, it's an evolution. You're just signing up to be part of that person's journey of evolving and seeing how you can then navigate your lives together.
Absolutely.
It's weird because it's like you're changing, but you've got to try to do it together, but do it individually, so it's satisfying to you. I mean, it's just the biggest...
Yeah. It's
I get it. It's a joke. It's like a practical. When I think about it, sometimes I'm like, what is this?
Right.
This is a big joke, because how can you tell me I could be with somebody and then at the same time, we have to change together and still love each other at the end of it all? It's a very big challenge, but it's the most beautiful thing, because to be able to witness someone come into themselves, it's the most beautiful thing. But it's hard, and not everybody knows that that's what marriage is about. So when we got to that crossroad, I had to decide that I know for a fact that I don't think this is what I want.
Absolutely.
And it was difficult. I mean, it took many years for him to kind of accept that this is the direction I wanted to take. Mm-hmm. But he understood. He understands now, because he sees like every year there's a new Luyanda that he's being introduced to, and vice versa. I'm meeting new versions of himself as well. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that it was more just about us being honest with each other, that this is the point at which we depart.
Absolutely.
Because he was no longer willing to evolve with me, and I was not willing to stop my evolution.
Sure.
So that's kind of where it was when we decided that we were going to call it quits.
Sure.
And that has nothing to do with parenting, because even till today we're on the same page as far as our parenting.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, I always tell my daughter, I'm like, listen, if you think that I'm going to be okay with this and your dad isn't, it's not going to work like that, because unfortunately we're on the same page when it comes to the kind of people we're trying to raise and who we want you to be. We have the same values. That hasn't changed, but as people we've just chosen a different path.
Sure. That is actually very interesting, because I had a guest last week, and she was just speaking about how the person you fall in love with and the parent that you get to meet when you guys become parents are 2 different people.
Very much so.
So the fact that you guys are still on the same page in terms of the parenting, it's almost like the parents fell in love.
Yeah.
Yes, but then the individuals, the 2 individuals just had converging pathways. Firstly, I'm sorry about that. I can't imagine how difficult it must have been.
Yeah, it was. But it's okay, because we're happier.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. And what I love is the fact that you were not willing to, because listen, as women we grow. And I don't know if this is a thing, but I feel like women grow at a faster rate compared to men. And the evolution that takes place in the 20s for a woman, as you get into your 30s, I mean, I'm only going to 30, so I can only speak about my early and late 20s. You literally can see that, oh my gosh, I've become 3 people in just a few years.
A decade.
So just the fact that you were willing to accept the fact that I am going to keep evolving. And he is not willing to come with me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make him a bad person.
Not at all.
This is just who he is. And perhaps he's comfortable where he is. But you're not going to be comfortable with being where you are. That is powerful.
Thank you.
Sure. That is amazing. I hope that if there's anybody out there who feels like, listen, I feel like I'm growing, but I feel like this environment is not allowing me to. I'm saying that people must get divorced, but I think the most beautiful thing we can do for ourselves is to be honest.
To be honest, yeah.
With ourselves,
Absolutely.
just absolutely about where we are.
Yeah. Because, I've seen couples that are married that do go through the evolution that I went through.
Yes.
And still manage to be in the marriage.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It
Yes.
doesn't have to be either or, and that's the beautiful thing about it.
That's the beauty. But I think, you know what? It requires you to grow. I was watching a video by, I think, Mbumi and her husband, and they had other people there, and they were saying that it requires you both to grow at a parallel, almost like you must both be growing.
Absolutely.
Or else one is going to feel like they are left behind.
In whatever journey they need to grow towards. Because, I mean, if you look at, for example, and obviously these are celebrities, we don't know their stories.
Yeah.
Will and Jada. I mean, I read
Yes.
Will's book, and
Sure.
there was a specific point where Will said to Jada, go and make yourself happy.
Sure.
And that was so deep for me, because he was saying that it cannot be my job to make you happy.
Absolutely.
And that's like quite controversial, because you're thinking in a marriage, we've got to make each other happy. What do you mean? And you have to make me happy. But I think he was finding in where they were in their journey that he couldn't make her happy.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's healing, and that's why there's such a big difference between the parenting and the marriage part of it.
Yes.
There's trauma, obviously there's trauma that exists in both spheres of your life, whether
Absolutely.
it's as a parent or as a
An
wife or a
individual.
husband. But the
Yeah.
trauma that you have to heal as a wife is just coming back to yourself. It always comes back to you.
Absolutely.
Healing whatever traumas you've been through, or healing whatever misconceptions you have about what happiness is, about what courage is, about what being brave, and what achieving your goals is, about what your meaning and your purpose is.
Absolutely.
That is what he meant by make yourself happy. Go and find what you want to do. Because I think at the
Sure.
time he realized and understood that, wow, actually this has been the Will Smith show, which has been him as a movie star, him as a husband, and him as a father. It was all about him. But then he had to acknowledge that, like, I can't just have a wife. I have to have somebody that is also happy and fulfilling who they want to be, and who what their purpose is in this world. And it's not fair to expect this person to just be happy and satisfied with the role of just being Will Smith's wife, or Jaden and Willow's mom. There's something she has to fulfill, which is why she was born,
Absolutely.
And so I think I went through the exact same thing, where I just wanted to heal everything
Yes.
that was standing in my way of becoming who I was meant to be. And it's still an ongoing journey. But I realized no one is going to do that for me.
Absolutely.
And I had to do it myself. So the best way to heal through your trauma and your pain is to have people that are partnered with you, whether it's your husband, your wife, your father, your friends. Everybody needs to know that you're more than just those people, those roles.
Absolutely.
A mom, a friend, a wife. You have to be someone. There's a reason why you're here,
So true. And sorry to interject. And I think that is the biggest issue with just, I think, with our generation. Remember, when we get married, we are being advised by the older generation. But what the older generation, or majority of the older generation did, was they were told that from today, this man is your everything.
Yeah.
From today, you push his agenda.
Yeah.
From today, and I mean, I am all for what the Bible says about just, being a helper to your husband, and him being a helper to and a provider. But I feel like, there's even with the women in the Bible, it doesn't just end with that.
Yeah,
And
of course.
yes, and I think when we want to then say everything that you've been, everything that you've worked towards as a person, all the growth that has happened stops here, and your agenda is to make sure that you follow what this person says. I think that is where we tend to get it wrong,
Absolutely.
because it should be a partnership, absolutely there should be respect within it, but we should both be growing.
Absolutely.
We should have a joined vision. And if it's joined, then we are both feeling fulfilled.
Definitely.
Because I'm not just fulfilling your vision, and I'm not just trying to be what you are looking for in a partner, and you are also not just trying to be
Yes.
that, you know.
I love that reference to the Bible, because I think that it's important to really pick apart at the
Yes.
character of people,
Yes.
because if you look at some of the women in the Bible, or I won't get too much into it, because there's obviously difference of opinion, but
Yes.
if you study one person and you realize, maybe Esther was actually a leader,
Right.
you find something, a nugget where it'd be like, oh wow, this is leadership.
Absolutely.
And then you realize that this person was thriving in that space of being a leader
Absolutely.
over and above being someone's wife or being,
Absolutely.
So it's important to really look into the character of these people
Yes.
that came before us. It doesn't even have to be biblical.
Yes.
You can look at, the women of the struggle, your
Yes.
Winnie Mandelas. You can look at their characteristics, that
Sure.
she was a leader, or she was very patient, or she actually knew how to champion other people's causes, and she knew how to be the wind beneath someone's way. Like it's just important to see what that person stood out for.
Absolutely.
And stood out, and that is purpose. It's not just
So true.
your role.
So
It's
true.
about purpose.
And I think that then speaks to what you said, that along the way, if you're going to just be doing, just being a wife and just be doing what this person wants, it's a natural thing that along the way comes, and you realize that I'm not even going to get fulfillment from this person just doing everything that I want them to do, or vice versa, me doing everything that, because along the way you realize that there should be more to me, and when you don't feel that void, when you don't work on that thing, which is another thing, because as a married woman, it could sound controversial to say it's not your husband's job to make you happy.
Sorry.
It's not even your kids.
No. It's no.
They are here on their
your
own
kids.
agenda,
and they leave you. And everyone, you see, the thing is, and this sounds so mean and cynical, but everyone is looking out for themselves.
Absolutely.
And so it should be, because everybody just wants to make sense of, like, okay, great, here I am, but why am I here?
Sure.
So that's always a very personal discovery, to discover why you're here, and nobody can, I can't tell my son, so the reason you were born is because you meant to. He's got to, dig inside himself and discover.
Absolutely. Can you just cut there? I think that might be the lady. Yeah. Sorry guys, you cut that part out. Can we continue? Okay. Wait. I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. You mentioned that you guys are still doing well in terms of the parenting. What would you say were some of the things that helped with just being able to still, be able to co-parent without drama and without maybe the other person feeling like I need to spite that person, because a relationship didn't work out?
Yeah, look, it's not easy. I won't lie and say that, like, from day one it was like roses and it was fun and it was great. When he moved on and kind of got married again,
yes,
I won't lie and be like, it didn't feel
I'm
bit,
fine.
I didn't feel away, especially because when the kids came home, I remember when they came home that weekend after their dad's wedding, they were like, oh, Daddy got married, this is Daddy's new wife. It was like, oh. But the overarching thing has to be happiness for the kids.
Absolutely.
And stability for the kids, and happiness for him, happiness for myself. So what helps our co-parenting relationship is also extended family.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't remember this and think about when you get married. And, as Black people, obviously there's the lobola thing, and there's that whole thing of ugwakubhlobo, which is, building the relations and whatnot. And what they won't tell you when you get married, because obviously you get married and the whole intention is to be together forever.
Yeah.
But when you separate, actually,
Yes.
the family bond and the family ties,
Sure.
you don't divorce the family. You don't divorce
can't.
your mother-in-law. You
Yeah.
don't divorce, it's family. They are your family. And that was a lot of comfort for me, because I had a very good relationship with my mother-in-law at the time, and she still became quite a guiding force even after we were divorced. And I thought about it and I said, it doesn't have to be about my ex-husband.
Yes.
It's about the whole family unit as a whole, building and continuing and maintaining the family relationship with the entire family. And that's what kind of guides me, is that if I think of being dramatic and petty,
Sure.
I think about, oh my gosh, my mother-in-law is probably gonna call me and be like, girl, what is happening, or whatever,
Yeah.
just understanding that it's not just about you and him, because
Yeah.
you won't see beyond you and him, because you guys are beefing at the time.
Yeah.
You're going through a divorce. It's not fun. But the parents and the family structure, and just knowing that it's more than just about you guys. That's what just makes it work. I don't know if that makes sense, because
That makes a lot of
it's quite
sense.
complex
And
to think of it in that
if
way.
you know what, as you are speaking, I'm thinking about the fact that what if, because we don't think about things like that, what if that was the sole purpose of someone
know.
coming into your life?
I know.
Just to be able to have a family to raise these kids with. And then you can have other parts of the things that you require, that you feel like you
Absolutely.
want in your
Definitely.
life fulfilled from other people. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, my mother-in-law and my mom still have a relationship. Like,
That
they
is
can still call each
beautiful.
other. And I remember when I had COVID, my mother actually had to get on the phone with my mother-in-law and say, listen,
Yeah.
please take the kids, because we're going into quarantine. The whole house had COVID. The kids
Yes.
didn't have COVID though, but my mom was able to then, because of the family ties, be able to pick up the phone, and they were able to handle it together as women. And I was so proud of that, because that's a result of just the
Sure.
bigger picture, and always remembering the bigger
Yes.
picture, and protecting both sides. When I need to protect my mother-in-law, I do protect her, and when I protect my mom, I do protect her, because I know that this isn't it. There's more to the story that's still
Absolutely.
unfolding.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing it every time
Yeah.
time moves on, that, oh, this is why, like that
Wow.
moment particularly just popped into my head. Like, that was a moment that was a reminder to me that, see, this is why,
Sure. I
when
love
on the
that.
moments that it was difficult for you to be civil, this is
Yeah.
why that was.
Yeah.
It's so that you can still have a family in these people. And you never know who you're going to run into
That is so
and
true.
meet later on in life. And, you have to just understand that it's everything is tied together.
Absolutely.
The journeys are tied together.
Sure.
So, yeah.
That, and I think, you know what, sometimes when we let emotions take over, and you just mess up because you feel like, oh my gosh, the marriage or the relationship is over. What you don't realize, especially with kids involved, is that it doesn't end there.
Doesn't.
And there's kids, and then they're gonna need to come back and heal from these things that you are, being petty about now. So that is such a mature way of looking at it.
And it's also difficult, because I think when you get divorced, you obviously have reasons, like,
Absolutely.
he did this, he did that, he did this,
Yes.
he did that. And then we spoke about this with some family over the weekend, that once that's done,
Yeah.
okay, you're divorced,
Yeah.
now you're left with yourself. And the issue's still there. You're like, but I mean, then you realize it's not even about him.
Yes,
It's about me
yes.
working on myself constantly. So even if you think that you can blame your mother-in-law, she's the reason your marriage broke down, or you blame your ex-husband because he did this and he did that, at the end of the day, I think that you get left with yourself.
Sure.
And 99% of the time, the problem is still there, because, you have to just kind of bring it back to you, and how you can how you can heal yourself. It's so annoying because it always comes back to you.
Yeah, which goes back to what you said. It's literally just, we are all on our own journeys, and it's literally just about you, and looking into your journey and healing what needs to be healed, and learning along the way. It's not there's no destination to this thing.
Nope.
It's just really taking it one day at a time.
Definitely.
So with all that having happened and you being where you are now,
Yes.
would you say that the decision you took and just where you are now is good for your mental health? Because that's another aspect that that we don't usually talk about. Would you say that when you look at where you were and when you look at where you are now, definitely your mental health is at a different place?
Definitely, because I think mental health has different compartments, right?
Absolutely.
There's mental stability, and then there's mental growth, and then there's, obviously the journey to healing.
Yes.
So I had to take all three of those. Okay, there's obviously more to it, but for me, what's most important is the mental stability. Understanding that, like, where I am right now, am I okay? Am I fine?
Yeah.
And as far as leaving the marriage and to where I am now, it was a journey. It was never just like a switch that was like, depressed in marriage, happy post-marriage. It doesn't work like that. It's like a constant evolution and a constant journey, and holding yourself accountable is the very first step towards getting to a better place in your mental health. So being accountable to myself at the point of making the decision to leave the marriage was the beginning. And I think that every year I learn something new. I discover, I get set back, and then I fall back into old habits. And so I think mental health, I think people think it's just like a contrast between black and white, and there's so many gray areas in between, and life is obviously happening as it goes on.
Absolutely.
But holding yourself accountable and having the support of being in therapy, or finding ways at least to speak to people. And obviously my business started when I started the fitness thing. It was just to obviously try to keep my mental health stable, which is obviously, we all know that exercise keeps you fit and healthy, and there's endorphins and all of that, and that equation. But that snowballed into kind of maybe touching more women's lives, and them realizing that, like, I do feel better after working out. And that's not like problem solved. Like, by no means is it like go and run on the treadmill and then the issues won't be there, but it's just about stabilizing before you can then move towards healing, which I think it was the best decision for me, because now the difference between then and now is the experience of what I went through, and being able to help other women and to help myself, knowing that was the worst time in my life, that I survived it, 100% survival rate, and I was just able to then take it from there and be a stronger person. It's like being in gym. Your muscles don't grow overnight. It's a journey. So, but I definitely do think it was definitely very good for my mental health to make the decision that I made, because it was also just when you're in a bad space,
absolutely,
and the only thing you can think of is how much of a bad space you're in. Then getting out of that bad space, and then it's like, but I'm still in a bad space. It just pushes the envelope. It's not even about the fact that leaving a marriage is the solution and to better mental health. It's just about, it's a thermometer to test where you are in every single decision that you make. So you leave the marriage, I still feel crappy. Okay, what else could it be? And then you move from there, and you move from there, and you move from there. So the journey with all three of those components that I spoke of started when I made the decision to put myself first and just take a different route. So I do think it definitely did benefit my mental health a lot. A lot.
And I love the fact that you make it clear that it's not just about leaving. You also still had work to do on your own, because sometimes we think that the other person is a problem, and then you leave, but you feel like, I'm still not in a good space.
I'm still upset.
So being accountable to yourself, just also being self-aware, and being aware of the fact that like you said earlier, you contributed to some of the things
of
that went wrong, and therefore there are
yes.
parts of you that you need to really work through as well. I love that.
Yeah, because I think, like, I had to admit that, it took marriage for me to discover that I was a people pleaser.
Sure.
Because I put, obviously, everyone else's needs before my own. I put my mother-in-law's needs, my kids' needs, my husband's needs, my aunt-in-law, everyone's needs came before my own. And I wouldn't have known that if I wasn't married, because I would just be living on my own and not aware. And the spotlight was shined in that area of my life.
Sure.
So I only discovered then that, like, girl, you are definitely a people pleaser, because why did you say it was okay when you knew that it wasn't when that happened,
Wow.
So it's just about every single relationship will shine a specific spotlight on a specific thing you need to work on.
Sure.
So, I mean, I discovered that, and it was hard because I had to just accept, like, okay, but what about you? What do you need to heal that, like, you have to please other people to be liked?
Absolutely.
Why do you want to be liked so much by other people?
That is
what
deep.
happened that made you, follow that, that's what happened in your past, or generationally, what is the pattern with your mother and your grandfather and grandmother and everyone that came before you? And then you have to heal it, because the spotlight is there and you can't ignore it, You can't ignore it. And those are the things that make us sick, is when we ignore.
Absolutely.
When we ignore.
Sure, man. I wish we had not run out of time, because I've been enjoying this conversation. But I love the fact that, out of the entire situation, there are so many good things that have happened, that continue to happen.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't then mean that divorce is such a bad thing, if it can mean that you come into yourself, I love that. If you had to just give your last words to someone who feels like they are at the verge of it, and they feel like, I don't know, is this the worst thing I could do? Is this the best thing I should do for myself? What would you say?
I think, because it's also not just about divorce, because I think when I left corporate, I was faced with the same decision.
Yes.
It was even more traumatic to leave corporate than leaving my marriage. I'll tell you that. Because you rethink everything that you've ever believed about success and wealth and your journey and your contribution to an industry that you were so once passionate about, and how you can change the game, and just, So it's not even just about divorce, but when you're making, and you're faced with making any decision in your life, you've got to make sure that you have the right support. Be in therapy, have a structure where you have at least a few friends that you can bounce ideas off of, and you can talk to people. Don't do things alone. Don't think you can survive on your own, because no man is an island. In whatever decision that you take, whether it's moving from corporate to starting your own business, whether it's getting divorced, whether it's deciding to have a child, whatever the decision is, you've just got to make sure that you don't try to take it on yourself, because change is probably the biggest enemy to man, because we're creatures of habit. Our brains, when you're reading, you're not reading the words, you're just remembering what you've seen before, and that's what makes you able to read, because you're just memorizing and storing it, and then living off of that. So whenever there's change, it rocks your core and it turns everything upside down. So it's important to just have an outside eye that will just help hold your hand through that process, because you're just relearning. And like in grade 1, when you were learning, you had to have a teacher. When you were in varsity, when you were, studying, you had to have a teacher. Everything needs guidance. So when you're changing something in your life, make sure that you just have a support structure, because you don't know everything. And trust me, you're going to discover things about yourself that are going to traumatize you. You're going to be like, oh my God, I didn't know. And then you fall into a puddle, and then that's that, and life is over. So just have support. That's the best thing I can say. And have allies, not just friends. Have allies, like people that are really rooting for you to come out on the other side of that change as a better person, a happier person, and a person that's really just, better.
Wholesome.
Yeah. That's the word.
Sure. This has been So informative.
Thank you for
So
having me.
insightful.
And I love this platform. You know,
Thank
we
you
need more
so
platforms like
much.
this.
Thank you so much.
What
And
stood out to me mostly about you, sorry to just say
It's
this,
okay.
is just how you take yourself seriously, and that is the key and the trick to anything. It's just
I
to take
try.
yourself seriously, because you're just a serious. You're here, you're breathing, you're alive. So there's a
Absolutely.
serious thing happening, you know.
Sure.
All the atoms that have made and formed who you are, it's a serious business. So you take yourself very seriously, and I think that's amazing, and that's what's just making this platform so successful, and I just wish you all the
Amen.
best.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Hey,
Thank you.
That means a lot. But you're such an incredible woman.
Oh, thank
I cannot wait to see what the future holds for you.
Thank you,
You're
sis.
doing amazing things. And just watching your videos, working out every day, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. It's some sort of an accountability partner that you
Thank
don't even get to speak to.
Thank
So that
you.
is beautiful. Continue to share your truth
Thanks, sis.
and continue to inspire in your journey.
Yay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
That means so much. I'm gonna cry, but I'm not.
I know you don't love me like you used to know. 'Cause you've been running circles